Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. I'm also the creator of the course called Teach the Geek to Speak. And then I also founded a membership called the Teach the Geek to Speak Society. And you can find out about them at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Lindsay O'Leary. And when I first learned about Lindsay, I looked her up on LinkedIn and I saw that she had a lot of acronyms after her name. So I'm going to go over some of these acronyms because I didn't even know what most of them meant when I first saw them. So PE, I knew PE stood for professional engineer. CAE, I had to look up. That was Certified Association Executive. And then there's the FASCE, which means she's a fellow of the American Society of Civil Engineers. That's a lot of things. So I'm really interested to learn more about all these various aspects of her life. And she's now the Director of Technical Advancement for the American Society of Civil Engineers, or ASCE for short. And before that, she was the Executive Director of the ASCE Texas section. And before even that, she worked in varying engineering roles within civil engineering. So I'm really curious to find out about all these aspects of her life, what motivated her to move into her current role, and the ways in which her engineering training has helped her to even be ready for this current role, and of course, her public speaking journey. Welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Lindsay.
Thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it. And thanks for the translation of all my alphabet soup. What you don't know from LinkedIn is I have a sister who's a doctor of physical therapy, and we are in a competition to earn more letters after our names.
Good Lord. You might as well just start with A and end with Z and just go down the line. You'll cover all of them between the two of you. So I know also from your LinkedIn profile that you got a degree in civil engineering. Where'd your interest in civil engineering come from?
Great question. I was always interested in physics. In high school, I had a physics class that I absolutely loved. I tutored all my friends, and it got me interested in math and science. Additionally, my dad always encouraged me or required me to have him be by his side when he was fixing things, essentially. So I had to help around the house. If it was a re-roofing project or fixing the brakes on a car, I was there helping. So there was really no gender role barriers in my home growing up. And I think that helped me get into a field that was more traditionally dominated by male engineers, but we're seeing a lot of females coming into the profession now. And I really accredit that to my parents for encouraging me to be able to do anything I was interested in.
Wonderful. I mean, you mentioned that you had a twin sister. Did you have any brothers?
Oh, my sister's not a twin. She's just 2 years younger than me. I do not have any brothers. It's just the two of us girls. And so, maybe if I had brothers, I wouldn't have had to help with the re-roofing project.
No question. He's gonna put you to work. He said, I got daughters I got to work with. Well, daughters it is. Get up on the roof. Nice. So once you finished this degree in civil engineering, what type of work did you do?
When I first graduated with civil engineering, I was in Orlando, Florida, and the housing market was booming. There were all types of job opportunities for civil engineers, and I was very lucky to graduate in that time frame in 2006. And I found a company that did a lot of residential and mixed-use land development. I got to work with landscape architects and urban planners, and it was a really fun, collaborative job. And the company I worked for at the time was great to their employees. We had lunch and learns on a regular basis and Cinco de Mayo parties with a margarita machine. I didn't think civil engineering would actually be that fun, and it was a great first job.
Nice. So then, I mentioned before that you did a bunch of jobs in civil engineering in that discipline. The roles that you ended up taking, was there any sort of plan to go into those roles, or did it just you took opportunities where they came?
I took opportunities where they came. I had some ideas of what I wanted to do, but those opportunities didn't always present themselves, so I had to switch gears. When I first started in engineering school, I thought I would study and work on construction projects, although I came to realize that working for, let's say, a general contractor, it's a really rough schedule. You might move cities to be with a big project. you would have to be on a construction site, maybe 6:45 every morning. So I don't know if construction was the ultimate place for me to go. And when I graduated school, I tried something outside of construction, and that was a good choice. And then my other career move after that was really a result of the economy. In 2008, 2009, we had the housing market crash, and it was a tough time to be a civil engineer and to have consistent work. And I found myself picking up odd jobs, if you will, until I could find another full-time engineering job. One of those odd jobs was working with a company that provided education to individuals looking to pursue their LEED accreditation. So leadership in energy and environmental design is typically a certification that a building can achieve. You might see a LEED Gold building at your local library or a public office. And I found a job teaching those courses. I had passed that exam, and this company was looking to provide continuing education for other professionals, not just engineers, anybody in the architecture, engineering, or construction industry in that exam. And that was really my first opportunity to do public speaking in a small group. I was the instructor of anywhere from 6 to 20 people in a class, sometimes the only female, sometimes the youngest person. And so that pushed me to be comfortable speaking to a group of others when maybe on the inside, I didn't feel like I had all the authority.
Huh. Wow. You know, you're the first person that I've spoken to that has talked about I guess, a difficulty in getting jobs within your field, but then being open enough to go and do other things outside of that field. Maybe open's not the right word. I mean, it's kind of more out of necessity. I mean, if there's not jobs within your field, you still got to eat, you still want to live indoors. So you got to find something to do to make money. So kudos to you for finding those opportunities. You know, Lindsay, I also mentioned in the intro that you've done work for ASCE and you do work for ASCE now. I mean, now I assume you're with national headquarters, but you started off with the Texas section. How did that come about? And what does that work entail, or what did that work entail with the Texas section?
Great question. I practiced civil engineering for about 10 years and didn't really love the situation I was in. I had difficult clients and the team wasn't the best fit for me. Great company, but just not maybe the right fit for me personally. And I always wondered what else I could do with my civil engineering degree that really fit my personality type. I love working with people. I love client management and the communication behind civil engineering, looking at top line challenges, thinking strategically. And that translates well to the nonprofit world. I saw the American Society of Civil Engineers Texas section was hiring. I had always been a member and a volunteer of that group. I didn't realize there were job opportunities when I first started volunteering. And then I saw a job posting, I read through it and I thought, wow, this sounds like the perfect job for me. Although the job title was executive director, and I wasn't quite sure when I read that I would be qualified to be the executive director, having come from a project management experience within civil engineering. But I read the job description and I said, you know what, I am a quick learner. This sounds something I'd be very passionate about. So let's give it a try. And luckily I was hired for the job.
Nice. You know, you mentioned that you like client management, but from your previous job, you didn't like the clients.
yeah. So that's a good point. I like only the good clients. They have to fill out an application to work with me. Though it was a challenge when I was working in consulting because I was a mid-level project engineer and I didn't have the final say in things like the overall budget for a project, but I also had to meet utilization goals as an engineer, which means that I had to bill a certain amount of hours every week to meet the company's profit goals and sustainability goals. And it was hard being in the middle, trying to bill your time, but not being allowed to have a say on the final budget. So that is a challenge for engineers at the mid-level, and it made it difficult to interact sometimes with the clients because I didn't have that final authority. So that was a challenge. In my role, my clients are more of my customers. I'm in a customer service role where all of our members are customers of the American Society of Civil Engineers. And the majority of the members are volunteering their time and happy to be there and looking for extra resources and feedback. And it's a really good group of people to work with.
So what type of work did you do as an executive director?
So I liken that to running a small business. I oversaw a staff team. I had 2 staff members. I also had a handful of contractors, and we kept the day-to-day operations going for 2 different websites, a magazine, email blast to our members. We had about 10,000 members at the time in Texas, and working with the board of that group to decide what were the strategic priorities, what would the board like to focus on? Was it the annual conference for professionals, the annual event for students, continuing education through webinars? So working in the nonprofit sector as a staff member, you work in parallel with the board of direction. The board typically decides where the organization should be headed, and the staff implement the day-to-day steps to get you headed in that direction.
Okay. So then you were the executive director of the Texas section, and then you now work for the top dog ASCE national headquarters as the director of technical advancement. When you're the executive director, you're the top person, I'm assuming, for the Texas section, and now you're going to a situation where you're not the top person anymore. Was that a difficult transition to make?
Great question. I am still working through that transition. I've been in my current role for just over 7 months. And it is a strange transition to go from being the boss to being back in the middle and having a boss, and my boss has a boss. But that was intentional. As the leader of a small team, I felt there was only so many places to go and grow, and not working with more senior people on a daily basis, I wasn't reaching my full potential, and I craved another group of people in which I could learn from. So I was happy to join a team, and now I have a number of colleagues who I would consider my peers that I can learn from, as well as a senior leadership team. And I still have a lot to learn. So I'm happy to be working with other professionals and working on a bigger team. Of course, it does have its own challenges. Sometimes it is frustrating that I don't get the final say, or I can't quickly make a decision because I have to go through the right channels of approval. But there's pros and cons with any position.
No question. It's almost as if you're back in the position that you were in before. With at least you don't have bad clients now, I hope. But out of curiosity, I mean, you did mention that there are the benefit of working in your current role is that you have the people above you that you could learn from. What specifically are you looking to learn?
I am looking to continue learning more about nonprofit management and strategic thinking and planning. I love the idea of working towards an organizational vision and organizational management. My ideal job is a professional dot connector. I want to get to know what everybody is doing and make connections, collaborate, streamline, and work on efficiency wherever I can in various types of projects.
Oh, interesting. Professional dot connector. Never seen that.
Yep.
Never seen that out there before, but maybe you'll be the first.
Yeah, if I could make up my own title, that's what I would call myself.
Nice. I like it. Professional dot connector. Nice. So, out of curiosity, now you have this civil engineering background. You actually worked in that industry for a while, and now you're working for a nonprofit. How did your engineering education prepare you for your current role?
Becoming an engineer is all about refining your ability to learn and the process for learning. When we're in elementary school and middle school, we have a couple of science projects. We might go to a science fair and learn the scientific method, where you come up with a hypothesis, and then you have your procedure, you present your results ultimately to see if you've met your hypothesis. So that is a process to conduct experiments and essentially learn from your experiments. Studying engineering in college is a big procedural step in learning where to find information, how to process that information, and what to do with that information and determine if it's quality information. So when you're going to college for engineering, you do not graduate knowing exactly how to do your job. In fact, you have a lifelong learning adventure ahead of you, but you learn basically how to be a good learner and what the right steps are and how to be successful. And then when you graduate, you learn, maybe you work at a company, hey, this is how we want you to write reports. This is how we approach collecting data and information or developing a design. And understanding how to learn helped me tremendously in the nonprofit world, because the business is ever changing. You have to consider how to continue bringing value to the members. What do the members want over time as civil engineering industry changes? What is technology doing about those changes? And how can we be at the forefront or the cutting edge of those things?
I like what you just said, Lindsay, because some might get the impression that once you get a degree in engineering that you need to do a job that requires that degree. But because you now work in the nonprofit space, and I mean, if you're working as an executive director or as a director of technical advancement, you probably can get away with not having an engineering degree to do those jobs. But yet, I like how you said that getting an engineering degree helps you to learn how to be a better learner. And if you have that skill, I mean, what job would be out of bounds for you? So it would make sense then to have an engineering degree, because it's a lot more versatile, I think, than people give it credit for. Just because you have a civil engineering degree doesn't mean you have to be building a bridge or designing a road. Designing a road. You can use those skills to do other things, like run a nonprofit that services civil engineers, like what you're doing now. So yeah, kudos to you for seeing that, I guess, that connection. And hopefully when people listen or watch this episode, they can see that too. Just because you get this degree doesn't mean you're limited to what you can do afterwards. You can go in various paths. I like that. Yeah.
You're so right, Neil. That is something I often share with others, is there are a lot of pathways in civil engineering or any type of engineering. You learn project management skills, you learn communication skills, report writing skills. You can take that and apply that to so many industries. And I often hear that tech industries like Tesla and Google are hiring engineers because of their process-oriented thinking, not necessarily because they're going to do all the design work at a company, but their ability to manage a team, lead a team, and communicate across perhaps different departments at those companies.
Yeah, no question. So, you mentioned during the economic downturn in 2008 that you took a job that actually required some public speaking. Was public speaking something that you were always good at? And if not, what'd you do to get better at it?
Well, I love speaking and talking. I don't know that I was always good at it, but I am a blabbermouth. Typically, if I go to a party or a social event with my husband, he's got to drag me kicking and screaming out because I'm talking to everybody. He's like, okay, it's time to go. Time to go home. So I've always been an extrovert and enjoyed socializing. So public speaking was intimidating, but maybe not as intimidating as it might have been for somebody who's more of an introvert personality type. I did and still do get nervous when I public speak. I need to practice. I need to understand what my talking points are. So when I took the part-time role of helping to train and educate people to be prepared for the USGBC's lead exam, I had sometimes a 2-day presentation I needed to give. All the attendees received a corresponding handbook that went with the program. And so I reviewed my presentation over and over again. And my first class was probably a little bit bumpy, but several classes in, I got better and more comfortable. I definitely need to slow down. I tend to talk very, very fast. So when I am public speaking, I need to remember to slow down. I need to practice. Speaking in front of large audiences is still intimidating. I have had the opportunity to do that as a volunteer pretty early on in my career when I was working as a civil engineer and volunteering with the American Society of Civil Engineers. At one point, I was the president of the younger member group here in Austin, and I was invited to present during a luncheon in front of, well, maybe 150 people. What is the younger member forum doing, and what are the upcoming events? So I had to go to a podium, provide this update in front of an audience, and it was a good experience, and it provided me with practice. So the most important thing is practicing, whether in front of a live audience and seeking out those opportunities to practice, and also rehearsing your notes and understanding your subject matter is very helpful.
Do you have a process for putting your presentations together? And if so, what is it?
I write a lot of notes. Typically, I have a notebook and I'm copiously taking notes on all the meetings that I'm in. So I'll write down some notes, or I might even type them out. If I'm doing a presentation that comes with a visual aid, like a PowerPoint presentation, I use the notes field within PowerPoint to put some bullet points about my talking points, what I might strive to say during the presentation. I don't always read those word for word, but the process of writing that down ahead of time allows me to collect my thoughts and focus on what is the most important information I want to convey during the presentation. So I will tend to write things down ahead of time, although I may not read them word for word depending on the setting. Working from home with a computer and a monitor in front of me, it is easy to have my notes pulled up. But if I'm in a live speaking event, I might have some notes in front of me. I do like it when there's a podium available so I can place my notes down. But typically it's a bullet point set of notes in a live event because I don't want to come across as monotone and just reading the script. I want to have some life into my presentation.
Yeah, those type of presentations. I can remember when I worked in medical devices as an engineer, and I had to go to conferences every now and then, especially the type of people who work in schools, so academic institutions. They may be grad students or professors or postdocs. Man, if you were tired going into those presentations, you likely will fall asleep, because oftentimes what would happen is people would read the slides. And so they're not reading bullet points, they're reading completely off the slides. And when you do that, it's really difficult to engage people. So I commend you for seeing that the benefit of not reading a script when it comes to at least giving presentations in front of people. Especially, it's difficult to engage them if you're not looking at them. It's very difficult to look at them when you're looking at your script. So
yes, absolutely. And it helps sometimes if you can to vary the tone and the volume of your voice. If you want to see if really people are paying attention, you could whisper a little bit and get their attention back, or if you've got something exciting, you can get louder. So it is really good to be as lively as possible. And you're absolutely right. Reading from slides can be really boring.
No question.
For the audience.
Yeah. Get quiet to see if they're paying attention, and then yell every now and then to see if they're falling asleep. Joke them and wake them up real quick. No question. So you mentioned earlier about getting nervous before giving presentations. Do you have any sort of techniques that you use to allay your nerves? And if so, what are they?
I like to have a little bit of quiet time by myself. Sometimes that's hard to do in a group setting. When I was working in my most recent job at the Texas section, we would have board meetings twice a year and executive committee meetings an additional 2 times a year. And those conversations were never very challenging. I felt comfortable speaking with that group of individuals, but I knew I would have to address a crowd of between 15 and 30 during those meetings. And I didn't know exactly what the topics were going to be. You know, people might bring up a topic and have questions. We have a meeting agenda, but you know, there's always open-ended questions or things that aren't on the agenda being discussed. So in order to just be emotionally prepared for those meetings, I heard a tip once where somebody said, go to the bathroom, close yourself in a stall, and just collect your thoughts for a few minutes, because nobody can bother you. Otherwise, I'm in the same room with all the meeting attendees and people want to visit and chat. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm quite social. So if I don't remove myself from the situation and just do a little bit of physical isolation, I don't really have a few minutes to just, okay, breathe, get ready. You know the subject matter, you're able to answer questions and speak to it. So it helps me personally to collect my thoughts and have a little bit of private space. And if you're in a venue where there is no private space, the bathroom stall trick is really helpful.
Nice.
No one's going to bother you in there.
Yeah, I would hope not, unless you got someone knocking on the door that actually wants to use that toilet that you're taking up. You've been there quite a while, lady. You coming out soon? You collect yourself. Collect yourself quicker, rather than not as quick, for sure. So, if there were one tip that you could offer somebody who wants to become more effective at presenting in front of people, what would it be?
Find opportunities to practice, whether it's in a volunteer setting or in front of friends and family. Perhaps you're going to make a speech at an event as a practice, or families coming over for Thanksgiving dinner and you want to lead your family through the prayer. Wherever you can, find opportunities to push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone so that you can practice. because ultimately the more you do it, the better you'll feel, you'll get more comfortable, and you'll probably get great feedback from your family, your friends, your colleagues, and positive reinforcement is always a wonderful tool. So practice, 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 and don't be shy to let people know that you're practicing, and you would appreciate their candid feedback.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's an excellent tip. I mean, you don't get better at anything by not doing it. You can listen to all the podcasts, read all the books, watch all the YouTube videos, but if you don't actually get out there and practice it, then you likely aren't going to get better. And I do like also your tip about asking for feedback, unless you get people that won't give you any negative feedback. They'll only give you positive. That's why I don't ask my mother anything anymore, because it's always good. You did great.
There's a bias. Yeah, you got to
No
be
question.
careful.
She is extremely biased. No question. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for being a guest, Lindsay. I really appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you?
I have a pretty good presence on LinkedIn. I try to let people know what I'm up to with the American Society of Civil Engineers and post about events and features, or love using LinkedIn to thank people for all of their hard work and earn them some public recognition. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter. My handle on Twitter is Lindsay Ann O. My middle name is Ann. My last name is O'Leary. I think Lindsay O'Leary was already taken. So Lindsay Ann O is what it is on Twitter. So Twitter, LinkedIn, and if anybody would like to email me, they're welcome to email me. My email address is my first initial and my last name at asce.org. So that's LOLEARY at asce.org.
Excellent. Well, everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals, and you can learn more about it at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks, Neil. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate it.